My road is a spaghetti disaster, and it's awful,
Oh,
and I wouldn't trade it for anything. You meet different people, you go different directions, you figure out I like this, I don't like that. Nothing you do in your spaghetti path is ever a waste.
we can't talk to other business owners.
Right.
It's silly because nobody can handle all the work that's available.
There's so much out there. And why can we not build each other up, right? We can't control the circumstances that are around us. All we can control is how we react to them. There's like a whole career path for QCs. And they're
Yes.
writing their own tickets.
What is going on, L&M family? I'm back and I got a super special, high energy, just kind of a friend having coffee, but with some like real game. You're going to get to meet Miss Renee Glendenning, who I beat y'all because I got to have a conversation with her a few weeks back. I think I was in California at the time and said, oh man, we got to get you on the show. It's been super supportive and engaging on the social media, on the LinkedIn and stuff. She has spent some time doing cool stuff with NASA, which is that's kind of like, wow, I know somebody from NASA.
Rocket science.
I'm telling you, I have no business talking to rocket scientists, but hey, owned her own general contracting company, which is no small feat, and now is changing the construction world around and in quality control. She has Quality Control University. Let's get to know Miss Renee. Miss Renee, how you doing this
I'm
morning?
doing good. How are you?
Oh, I'm just here having fun, talking my head off all morning today. So, Renee, first question. I was stalking you on the interwebs.
I love it.
I saw that your tagline is like, quality is what remains when the dust settles.
Yep, that is our thing.
What is the dust?
The dust of construction, the dust of
Ah,
building, the dust of making, the dust of what we do. So when that dust
mm,
settles, quality is what remains. And it's what we build our reputation on. That's the second part of that saying. So that's on all of our jackets and our gear. And it stuck with me for years and years and years and years. And I stole that from a fellow individual that is in the industry. And years ago, that's what he said quality was. He said quality is what remains after the dust settles. And it's what we build our reputation on. And for me, that hit home.
oh, I love it. And
Yeah.
yes, like visually, when you think of a job site, there's a lot of dust.
Even
Everything's
with
shiny.
water trucks, there's a lot of dust.
Oh my God. Yes, yes, yes. And then, like you said, our reputation, I'm going to go out. This isn't a big assumption, but the quality of the stuff I do probably isn't of the highest quality, but I have a reputation for that. And that's okay. Like people know when you deal with me, it's going to be quick and dirty. It's not going to be super polished, but the quality of whatever it is we deliver in terms of relationships in construction and so forth shape or inform our reputation.
Absolutely.
They shape our reputation.
And we're only as good as our last job or our last project. Whatever you did, you're only as good as the last thing that you did.
Oh my good. There's a ton to dive in there, especially around the QC stuff, because that's where you're swimming and providing a lot of value to a lot of folks out there. But I'm not gonna take ownership of it. I'm gonna blame it on the L&M family. The L&M family wants to know, where did it all start? Like when you were in middle school, high school, did you plot it out?
No.
I'm gonna go to university. I'm
No.
going to get my engineering degree. I'm going to work
No.
for NASA. So what
No.
what happened?
So
How'd
I
that
was
happen?
a dance instructor.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's what I
Okay.
was. Yeah, I was a dance instructor, and my mom came to me with a hard truth. And she said, you're not going to be able to do this forever. And you're not going to be able to support yourself forever doing this. And so she said, you're going to go to school. And so my head was stuck in the stars, and I have always been a proponent of the space program and the stars and exploration. And she said, no, you're not going to make friggin' money doing that. You're not going to be an astronomer. Get that out of your head. All right. Well, I guess I'll be an engineer. And she was like, all right, good plan. And I had a helicopter mom, bless her heart, love her to death. But yeah, no, she steered me in that direction. And so I went to school and I went to work for Thiokol in the space program. And I worked in the facilities group. We built the rockets, but I was in the facilities group. So that's when I got into construction, because we built the facilities that built the rockets. And so I got into construction, and I realized This is my gig. I hated the over the wall engineering. You do something and then 2 years later it got built. That was not what I wanted. I wanted to see my impact. And I wanted to see
Ah,
my impact beginning to end, not throw it over the wall and then never get to see what it looked like. So I figured out right away that construction is what I wanted to do. And no, my road is a spaghetti disaster. And it's awesome.
oh,
And I wouldn't trade it for anything. You meet different people, you go different directions, you figure out I like this, I don't like that. I majored in everything for one semester. Awesome.
you made it in everything. Okay, so first I want to know because I'm into dancing. What you're a dance instructor? Was it a particular style? Was it ballroom?
Yeah, no, it was jazz and tap, and I will only
Oh,
admit this to you, clog.
okay.
How embarrassing is that? Country western
I
and tap shoes, clog.
I think it's, I don't tell anybody since we're making confessions here. I will watch clog videos.
Dude, we
Business, like,
need to change this
oh,
whole podcast. Deep confessions with Jesse. He'll pull it out of you.
and I've always had this thing in my mind. It's still, I wouldn't even say it's a bucket list item, but I've always admired tap dancing. Like, just there's some super cool folks I've seen out there.
The
It's like,
Rockettes
man,
are amazing.
okay, so now you know this, and I think the listeners out there know there's always these weird things that don't seem connected, but there are connections. And so now, you talked about the squiggly path of your life.
Oh yeah.
What are some of the connections to the thinking or the approach to learning and teaching dance and the things that you've experienced over the years?
Yeah, I think it's understanding how to communicate on different levels. If the person or the student is not getting it, you have to be able to try to bring it into their focus, right? And I think that's what
Yeah.
makes a good coach, a good educator, a good dance instructor. It doesn't matter, right? You have to learn how to talk on different levels and don't talk down to people. I hate that.
Right.
This means talking and meeting someone on a level that they're going to get it. For me, it's always the joy of the light bulb. Like you called out your family member at the beginning, right? He had a light bulb moment. That's what that was.
Yes.
That's why we do
Yes.
this. When you see
Yes.
someone get it and find the satisfaction of, I get it finally. I understand. You said it in a different way and I get it. And for me, that's what gets me out of bed every day. It's just finding someone to reach that's going to get it and have that light bulb moment, because those are moments that stick with them forever. And then
Mm.
that changes their spaghetti path, right?
So I love that you point out, like in teaching dance, like you got to figure out what is the flavor
Yeah.
that the learner needs, and more importantly, how you connected it to its value in the professional space, like universally valuable when you have that skill to be able to adjust and say, oh, it's not them, it's me. It reminds me of a saying one of my coaches said, if the learner hasn't learned, the teacher hasn't taught.
Oh, agreed.
And now, that's not to say that the learner doesn't have some responsibility in the situation, but in
Right.
order to hold myself to a high standard of quality, if I hold myself to that level of ownership to say, they're not learning because I haven't taught. I need to augment, adjust, tweak my communication, whatever it is, my delivery,
Oh,
so
absolutely.
that they can consume it and have that light bulb moment.
Absolutely. I get asked all
So,
the time, oh, you have a piece of paper, yet you're an engineer. What a waste. You do construction. Oh, that just drives me nuts. Education is the one thing that's never a waste, whether it's somebody teaching you how to insulate a pipeline in the field or whether you're sitting in a classroom, it's not a waste. And I use my
mm,
degree every day because then I can communicate with the eggheads and I can call them eggheads because I'm one of them. I wouldn't be able to communicate with them the way I am if I didn't have it. And I try to explain that to people. Nothing you do in your spaghetti path is ever a waste. Just pull that out of your brain and get rid of that right now.
say it again, sister.
Right? I mean, even
Like,
your QCM class, right? That made it so
yeah.
that you and I found common ground. I understood what you did. You understood what I did. That day you might have been like, oh, geez, this is a drag. What a waste.
Hmm.
But it's not.
Hmm.
I mean, here you
Right.
are, decades later going, oh, yeah, yeah, I've done that thing. I know what you do.
Yeah, I never taught dance, but I was obsessive about salsa dancing, salsa and merengue, not merengue, salsa and bachata. I was at the studio 4 nights a week, and then I was at the club 2 nights a week learning. What I learned from that, I learned a lot of things, but the things that are applicable in the squiggly line of success was when I'm leading, responding to the pressure or the lightness or whatever of the person I'm dancing with makes for a beautiful experience and a really attractive performance.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm leading, we got to maintain this connection. There's some push and pull that helps us do the maneuver and do the patterns and the lead.
Yep.
And if my intensity or gentleness is not tuned to that person,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to get disconnected and it's going to be wonky,
Oh,
which is
absolutely.
very similar to what you said. But what I think I've done, what I used to do early in my career was everything was a fight. Everything was a wrestling match where I was grabbing people and throwing them around. In working with quality control professionals, and I'm going to expand that even further to like folks that are in support groups, because I would say the quality is a support function
Right.
along with HR and safety and all the
Yep.
other things.
Yep.
I've come across so many folks in those roles that are wrestling. My question to you is, how important are interpersonal skills for QC professionals?
Extremely important. We've talked about this. Being human, right? And being a good human and treating people like a human. That saying of you get more bees with honey, right?
Huh?
A
Uh-huh.
QC that is a human on a site is useful and they will be seen as useful. And a QC that lands on the site as a dictator is a cancer. It's a
Mm.
cancer. Unfortunately, I have not found the magic sauce to change. And there are some of those
Ah.
folks that I did a post about this not too long ago.
So
Yep.
before you get to learn more about her, I want to give the L&M family member shout out. This one is for Mr. Bernard. Bernard sent me this awesome message that lit up my day, and I want to share it with y'all. Bernard said, Jesse, this is awesome. Thank you very much. Being a part of this journey has made the world of difference in my professional and personal life. Glad I'm a part of it and will definitely continue to reach out and spread the word. So Mr. Bernard is talking about emotional bungee jumpers, which he's been a part of for almost a year. And obviously, it's helping him. It's not just torture,
Oh,
but he went out of his way to let me know that it is having an impact on him. And so, folks out there, L&M family members, take the time. If you give me like stars, I don't care how many stars, just give me some stars. Give me a review, send me a message. All of that thing is super meaningful to me because it helps me know that, hey, I'm not the only one listening to my episodes out there.
we're not screaming
And
into
it
the
gives me,
wind.
yes, and it gives me an excuse to celebrate you on a future podcast.
They throw around how many years they have in the dirt, right? It's this badge of
Mhm.
honor. I don't need to learn anything because I know it all. Because I have 40 years in the dirt. Oh, it just drives me crazy.
Yeah,
And I've not yet found the magic sauce to turn all those folks' mindset around. That's a
yeah.
mindset that can be so detrimental for a project. It's so hard. It's so hard.
It's got to be hard for the individual as well. You
Well,
think?
they're miserable. If you talk to them, they're miserable. Most of them have 4 divorces. They're paying child support. They don't have enough for a beer in the evening. And you just look at them like, if you just change your mindset a little bit and just be a
Yeah,
human, it'll
yeah, yeah.
change. So, no, interpersonal skills are extremely important. And approaching everything with open mindedness and with curiosity. Like,
Yeah.
just because you've got 30, 40 years in the dirt doesn't mean your way's the only way. There may be a young buck. He may have boots that are so shiny clean, you just want to go over there and step on them. But he may be fresh and he may look at something and go, why are you guys doing that instead of doing it this way? Like he may change
And
your
then,
whole world. Like he could rock it. But you got to
yes,
have that mindset of listen. You got to open your ears and listen because you never know when you're
yeah.
going to meet the person that's going to light bulb moment for you. And so
Mm.
that really, interpersonal skills are very important to a successful QC manager. Organization and interpersonal skills. If you got that,
Uh,
you can do it.
you could do a lot. Like,
Oh, I made lead foremen into QC managers. I've
wow.
made engineers into QC managers. I have made pipe fitters into QC managers. Anyone can do this position if they have the right mindset and organizational skills. The rest of that we can teach.
Now, I want to do maybe some myth busting here.
Oh, yes.
Because like you mentioned earlier, when you've had people in your life tell you, like, you have an engineering degree and you're construction.
Yeah, what
What a waste,
What a
right?
waste.
And then so that's myth number one. Myth number two is engineers don't have interpersonal skills, but clearly you do, and
I've worked with a lot of them that don't.
yeah. And so how do you navigate that? Because there are a lot of people that are maybe
Down on
binary in thinking.
Yeah. I made more as a quality control manager than I ever did as an engineer. And so that's the number one. Money talks for a lot of people. So when people say,
Yes.
what a waste. Yeah, well,
Yes.
or I've got folks in my family that look at me and go, oh, you're in construction.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's done really good for me and my family. It's done good. So money talks for a lot of people. And then for some people, it's more than that. Hopefully for most people, it's more than that. But normally, as soon as I say I make more as a QC manager than an engineer, they go, what?
Really?
Yeah, no, that can't be.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
that's usually how I start that conversation. And then it's what is your jammy jam, right? It's what you enjoy doing. And when I've been in the industry, the young bucks always want to be a project manager. Every time I interview someone, well, my goal is to be a project manager. That's what I want to be. And I always tell them, even when I own my own company, you'll be back. If you go do that, you will wear that hat. And then you come back to my office in a year or two and you tell me you're done being a babysitter and that you want to be a QC manager, and we'll talk again. And I'll tell you, 95% of those boys and girls, they come back and they want to be a QC. I think that's where it's at.
Yeah, there's like an unearned status given to the title of engineer project manager. Like I'm a field guy. So one of the jobs I had, it was a new position to the company. And so they didn't have it technically in their system yet.
Right.
And so they classified me as a project manager internally. And I was like, y'all need to change that title because I'm about to quit. One thing I never want to be. I'm not one of those. But it's because I have a lot of biases and I've worked with a lot of project managers that made my life miserable. But I also appreciate like that job, that work, you got to love it because that's not sexy, high status.
No, everything, whether you're a super or a PM or whether you own a company, it's risk versus reward, right?
Yep.
You have to weigh what kind of effort and risk you're willing to do for what kind of reward. And that's 100%. A personal choice that no one can really make but you.
Yeah. So on the idea of risk versus reward, why in the world would you start a construction company since the financial reward of running a construction company is like pennies compared to the amount of damn effort and pain and struggle you have to experience?
I was young and naive. No, just joking.
Okay.
Come, let's do this. It'll be fun. So I did federal construction at my company. We did commercial and fed, but we were mostly federal because we were in the SBA's 8A program, right? So at the time when I started my construction company, we had heard from those on the Hill that they were going to treat the Girl Card or the WOSB like they were treating the 8A program of the SBA. And what that means is that customers could sole source to you with that kind of federal contract. And it's true, they have the power to do that, but the contracting officers are not using the WOSB or the EDWSB yet. Started it thinking that it was going to be a really easy transition. I had been along the Front Range in Colorado for many years. My name was well known along all the federal bases. Thought that it was going to be like everything in life, so much easier than it really is. And it took years to get the portfolio under my flag. Like they knew me, but I had not done any projects under my company name, my flag, right? It was painful and it was hard and it was a lot of learning curve. I wouldn't change it. I have a lot of people ask me now. I wouldn't change it. I did so much personal growth and so much. I mean, I don't think they should give companies to people as much as they allow people to have their own company. I was an engineer and I had been in the industry for a lot of time. I didn't know profit and loss statements. I didn't understand P&Ls. I didn't know what the bank was looking at, what the bond people were looking at. And I figured out really quick what I didn't know. And I'm fortunate to be surrounded by a lot of smart people, but I wanted to understand. So I went and
Yeah.
got a streetwise MBA. And during that process, I learned all of the stuff that I needed before I even started my business. And then I realized everything I was doing wrong, and I was able to
Yep.
steer the ship. So, yeah, I got into it thinking it was going to be a better life for me. I was a sole
Mhm.
provider of 2 young boys at the time. And,
Wow.
everybody always says, own your own business, you have more family time.
Negative.
Don't do that. Don't do that. If that's your motivator, don't do that. So that's really why I jumped into it, and a lot of good lessons, met a lot of good people. Wouldn't change it for the world, but it's a rough road. It's not for everybody. It's a rough road. You burn that
Oh,
candle at both ends in the middle, and it'll eat you up. And there's no privacy, right? So when you're in those
yeah.
programs, I called it the Trinity: bank, bond, and the SBA. They were my holy trinity. And when they called, you picked up the phone. It didn't matter what time it was. All three of those people knew what I spent on groceries every month. You're in a
Yeah.
fishbowl. They know everything, right? Because you've got to stay within the
Yeah.
confines of the program. And I was definitely ready to be out of the fishbowl and to give back. You get tired of being competitive with all these other people, and there's so much stigma around, you can't succeed if they succeed, and you
Ah,
can't help
yes.
them, and you can't talk to them. You're on a bid walk. You have to put your game face on. And that was never me. Like, I drove my
Yeah. Yeah.
partner insane because this was Renee.
Mm.
Hey, how's it going? Heard you got that job, right? Oh, that's what I wanted to
Mhm.
be. Like, I always wanted to be who I am now, and helping and
Yeah.
giving
Yeah.
back. I didn't want to play those other games. That wasn't my game.
There's a whole bunch there. Like the idea that we can't talk to other business owners
Right.
is silly because nobody can handle all the work that's available.
There's so much out there. And why can we not build each other up? I would
It-
tell
it-
somebody, and then I would get dirty looks from my team. Like,
yep.
you told them our numbers. I didn't tell them our numbers. I was telling them good job for getting the job on another base. Heaven forbid. I wasn't
Yeah.
talking. It's just, it wears me
Now,
out. Like, just thinking back to that, and my whole body just goes,
yes. Yeah. Well, I think maybe it's a new era, or maybe I'm just making better friends. I'm seeing a trend. I found myself around more and more people like that are
yeah.
like-minded in terms of like, why don't we like lift each other up and support each other and
Oh,
refer each
absolutely.
other and share? Because nobody really has some super magical proprietary thing that the other competitor isn't doing. Like we're all doing the same garbage. Like
Just
we
with a different
really are
road,
all
right?
doing this.
I know.
Yes.
I know. And like we said earlier, you're not for everybody, right? I'm pretty straightforward, and I use colorful big girl words. Some people don't like to hear that. If I'm not
Yeah.
your jam, let me help you find somebody that might be. Don't give up just because I'm not it. But then there's
Yeah.
some people that are like, I really get you. It's like you're talking to me and I understand it and I want to learn from you. And I'm like, get in the boat. Let's go.
Come on.
But yeah, I was miserable playing the corporate games, and I'm much
Yeah.
happier writing my own destiny and getting to talk to folks I want and getting to surround myself by those people that help build you up, right?
So I love that you pointed out like the intense volume of personal growth that happens when you start your own business.
It's huge. Like, you don't know what you don't know until you try to
Yes.
start your own business. And then you're like, what? And they gave me this? Like, the state gave me a license, and then the SBA let me in their program? Like, what the heck? I shouldn't be running a business. I went to I was part of an emerging leaders program. The first night, they had a speaker come on, and they said, okay,
Yeah.
for the entrepreneurs in the room, you're going to own, on average, 8 businesses in your lifetime. So this one really doesn't matter that much. I mean, like, if this one fails, like, you're gonna learn from this and move on. And I sit at this table with 15 other emerging leaders, and they start talking about all these books they're reading to become better people. And they're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I'm reading Tony Robbins, and I'm reading this," and I'm like, "Holy crap! I don't have time to take a shower. Like, I got dry shampoo in my hair, people." And I mean, like, now though, you find time for that personal development, and you learn
Yes.
that emotional intelligence and personal development. Like, you can't lead without those things. And so now I'm
Yes.
one of those people that are like, "Oh, did you read this book?" And now people are like, "Oh, so glad you have time for all that."
Yeah.
You make time, right? I mean, it's a mindset. So I
Yeah.
walked
Yeah.
into it. I was in survival mode. I was like riding the bike through hell. The bike was on fire. My hair was on fire. I was just pedaling as fast as I could. Then I realized I'm not getting anywhere and I don't know what I need to know. My business is running me and I'm not running my business.
I love that. L&M family, you just got about 90 pounds of wisdom thrown at you,
I hate it
right?
when people get scared and they get scared of the federal
Yeah.
world. The federal world is a game and you got to learn the
Mhm.
rules of the game and then you just play
That's
it
it.
better than anybody else. And
That's
those
it.
rules protect you as much as it protects the feds. And there's good money
Yep.
to be had. So I'm
Oh, yeah.
always trying to help people and encourage them. Please go for it. Don't not go for it, but don't jump into that deep end blind. Keep your eyes open.
Yes, yes, 100%. But my backup plan, if my business fails, is to table dance for money.
I thought you were going to say dance. I was
Yeah, yeah,
definitely for that.
yeah.
I got some ones,
Now,
Jesse.
I'm going to make it rain. And
Right?
I'm happy to announce that for 2025, I will not be dancing on any tables. And that's a good thing for people. Now, the thing though is like in terms of the personal growth and the self-awareness, like the rate at what that has exploded for me. I've always been a nerd and liked learning things and reading and whatever. Don't tell anybody, but I was a closet nerd. But before I started my business, all of those books and ideas were like, they were great ideas. Like, oh, that's a good thought. That's a good idea. That's a
Right.
great thought. That's a good idea. But they were kind of optional. It was just like, I could do it or not. Now, when I come across a great idea and I'm way more selective and focused about what I'm learning and what I'm reading,
Mm-hmm.
because when it's makes sense, I got to go do that damn thing like now
And you can't
because
depend on
it's
anybody else, right? You got to figure it out.
correct.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, 100%. So that's just to say, starting your business is going to hyper accelerate your personal growth, whether you like it or not.
And then you get employees, and then you're trying to
Oh,
motivate different people, and
yep,
people have different motivators, and the new generation is so different to motivate. Suddenly, I had Gen Xers that would be happy playing a guitar on a street corner. So, like, they
yep,
were motivated when I did community service as a company, but when I threw money at
yes.
them, they were like, no. And I'm like, what? Yeah.
So, while you were in that corporate space, there was a certain type of, we'll say, costume that you have to put on because I think we all know what that is. And you also mentioned early in our conversation about the light bulbs and seeing your impact. So, what was the transition? What was the lighthouse that pulled you from your construction business to the quality control university?
Yeah, it actually was linked. So when I started my construction business, I talked about how hard it was to get experience under my flag and to get a name.
Yeah.
And so in order to take me off the books, I would go on other general contractor sites and I would audit their QC program. And I actually did QC work for other general contractors. And while I'm trying to get legs underneath my business because I couldn't
Yeah.
afford payroll, right? So I couldn't afford to pay
Ah.
myself. And so I'm out there doing this and I did it for about, I don't know, 8 or 9 different general contractors along the Front Range. And then it hit me. These guys are suffering. They don't understand. They don't know the staff that is needed to meet the federal requirements for quality control. And they don't have that staff on their payroll. And so I
Mm.
started a division under my general contracting company of QC services. And then when I wanted out, I got through the 8A program and I wanted to do something different. My partner took the company a different direction, and then I took the QC with me, and
Mm.
I just expanded it because pre-COVID, I would travel all over the US and I would do audits and I would be in the dirt with the guys and helping them out. And then COVID hit and everybody
Yeah.
shut. And I had to figure out how to still reach those people and help them.
Yeah.
We learned all the fancy Zoom calls with the backgrounds and the lights and how to talk to people on the internet.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I figured out, online training, right? Because the other
Ah.
the other problem is nobody wants to shut a job site down to train their staff. So if you have
Right.
online training, they can access it, or they have a snow day and they're on salary, right? So they're already getting paid for it. So tell them to log in and do some more QC training to finish your certificate, right? So that kind of developed into the QC University because even after COVID, money's tight. It's hard. My predominant customer is a small general contractor just getting into the federal arena. That's usually the folks that need me the most, and they don't have the money to fly me to go put me in the dirt. I mean, every once in a while I get to go and it's exciting, but most of them, they've got a grand or a couple grand that they can job cost and get online training for their whole company versus $2,000 just for a plane flight to put me up for a week and then shut their job site down. That's a cost, and train their people. And they don't have that. So this really is what developed in the QC University.
Oh man. Okay. So there's a ton, and I'm gonna hit you with a sidewinder question at the end of this. But you already talked about being able to see your impact. You started the branch of the construction business was QC because you saw a pain point that others, your competitors,
didn't
were
have.
struggling, and you decided to help them, and you could see the awakening or the light bulbs. And then COVID hit, which I think slapped us all in. Like, that's why I started a podcast, was because of COVID, right?
Oh, yeah.
Pre-COVID, I was like, all this online garbage is garbage. Everything has to be in person. And then over COVID, I was like, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah. You're like, it's all TikTok and dancing. And now you dance.
And now I dance. Exactly. It feels like there was these circumstances that happened that could have cratered you, but as they happen, it just helped you find another path or clear a path.
Right? We can't control the circumstances that are around us. All we can control is how we react to them. So it's, well, this beat me down. Well, this isn't going to work, right? I got to find another door. I got to open another door. I got to find another way. Like, I have no problem trying to reinvent myself and find another road,
And what I also picked up on is you talk about like the online self-paced training where you're a small GC that really resources are thin.
Right.
It's a way to provide them some value that is digestible for them.
Absolutely.
And so there's this idea or thread of service in there as well. Yeah.
Oh, huge. And that's why I do what I do, right?
So why is service important to you?
I previously talked to you and listened to you on another podcast, and we talked about your rearview mirror, right? And you get a few years in the industry and you figure out what makes you tick. I have my forever home. I'm sitting in it. I've got 30 acres out here in rural Missouri, and I have chickens, and I have a garden, and I have my things. All joking aside, it comes down to you get to a point in your life where you've held all the titles, you've done half of your bucket list. What's priceless to you, right? What's going to get you out of bed every single day? I'm not, thankfully, I'm not chasing a dollar for a house, and I'm not chasing a sports car, and I'm not, everything's a motivator at different points in your life. And I got a Mustang in the garage. Don't get me wrong. I love sport cars. I don't want to offend the sport car people, but you just get to that point where what means most to you. And what gets me out of bed every day is helping a subcontractor or a general contractor or a small business owner or a QC manager that's on a job and no one's giving them training except for the core's 1-day class, right? And they're lost and they're struggling. And I've been there. And every day they think their butt's going to get fired. And they've got kids that they have to feed at home, or a wife or a dog or a cat, or a sports car they want to put gas in. I don't care. Food, shelter, and the occasional beer. Whatever your motivator is. Like, I want to help you get there. That's what gets me out of bed. It's just you get to that point in your career where you're not chasing a physical object anymore. And that's where I'm at.
Yeah. So ditto. When I figured out two things, that the secret was fulfillment. When I spend more time doing things that bring me fulfillment, life is awesome.
Agreed.
And then now the sub part to that is, how do I get fulfillment? It's by doing the things that I'm designed to best serve at. Key point, service. Where do I get fulfillment from? Serving others. How do I serve others? Sharing my gifts and talents that I've been blessed with. Like, that's the thing in it. So totally get it. I absolutely love food, shelter, and the occasional beer because I'm sober now, but so coffee, right? Same thing.
Yeah.
same idea.
Whatever your jam is.
Now, what I understand is the business or the way that you serve the community is not just through self-paced online training. You offer other services.
Yeah, we'll do site audits, but bigger picture, a portion of all of our sales goes back into educating the youth. And I know that's near and dear to your heart, right? So we
Yes,
do
ma'am.
career fairs at the elementary school, we do it at the middle school, we do it at high school level, and we go and talk to them about the opportunities in the trades. My husband came up through the sheet metal union, and so he always comes with me. He did test and balance commissioning, and then I sucked him into quality control. He talks the trade route, and I talk the engineering route. And the fun part is to see the look on the kid's face when we say, we ended up in the same spot. And we both make really damn good money. Like
Yeah.
you don't have to go to university and get a piece of paper. Please stop telling the kids that. We need
Yep.
people that want to get into the trades, that want to be the craftsmen. So anyway, that's near and dear to our hearts. And so a portion of all of our sales goes back to either programs that educate the youth or us getting out there and hitting the street and helping out at those kind of programs. And I've seen your post. You do the same thing with the hands-on workshops with the kids and things.
Yeah.
That makes that lasting impression. And sometimes we're the only ones telling those kids it's okay. Not only is it okay, it's kick ass. Come do this. This is awesome. Come do this. It's
I gotta brag. There's a highlight. One of the last thing that I was involved in, the Texas Construction Careers, and there's an annual thing where we had 900 students there. Anyways, and I'm just the mouthpiece, right? I'm just there for comedy relief. So I was the MC of the event. I'm interviewing all the vendors, different employers, and all this stuff because you're right. It is freaking awesome.
Yeah.
Granted, you got to be able to tolerate the element.
Right.
You got to be able to, there's some things that
It's hard work.
it's hard, right? Like it's hard on the if you're soft. There ain't no mommies here.
No.
You got to figure it out.
No, for sure.
Now, so I was interviewing this one group employer, and I'm looking at the kid. I'm like, I know you, and he's yeah. I've been here. This is my third time here. I'm like, yeah, but you weren't. This is your first time behind the booth with the company. He's oh yeah. I've been working with them for 9 months. I said, well, where were you before that? He said high school. I said, no way. He's, yeah, I talked to you last time I was here as I was a student. And I said, no. He said, yeah. I said, okay, how much did this event, which is one time a year, how much did this event play into you deciding to start a career in construction? And he said, it was everything. My first time I came out, I had no idea there was this much stuff that like, all I think about is, the guy with the vest standing with the stop sign. I had no idea there was so many things.
Yep.
Second time I came, like I knew that I wanted to get into like welding, but just those interactions helped him become aware of the plethora of careers that are in the industry. And so for me, like you, the reason it's so important to me is because the trades gave me an amazing life. Like a life that I had no idea was possible.
Oh, I would never have what I have without it.
Like it's a freaking miracle.
I've got to see places. I've got to work with different places, different people. I hear it all the time, but it's the camaraderie, right? It's the people. I miss being in the dirt so much. And you know why I love the dirt. It's not just the dirt though. It's the people. I miss that.
Yes. Oh, same.
Yeah.
And so here's the thing, like kind of back to you're in construction. I thought you were an engineer. What happened?
What a waste.
You not pass?
You dropped out.
I have a deep appreciation for education, whether that's the formal thing or self-education. But what I'm not okay with, and this is why I'm such a huge advocate for the trades or careers in construction, is I am not okay with forcing kids into a situation that is not designed to help them thrive.
Yeah, forcing them.
And I know firsthand that an office is not a place where I will do well. I will do poorly, and I will make it difficult for everybody around me because I can't sit still. I'm noisy. I'm rambunctious. Like construction had the perfect conditions for me to learn and thrive. And that's, I think, the difference. We all thrive under different conditions. And when we force people into, if you need a lot of structure, a lot of direction, a clear path, education, right? Academic type stuff. If you can thrive in ambiguous, uncertain, rough and tumble kind of experiment to figure it out, make your own decisions, learn from failure, you need to come over here to this side. I think for me, that's the important thing. There's options.
So many options. And then people get pigeon-told even within our industry. I've trained several field foremen to be a quality control manager because, they
Mm-hmm.
talked to me in the field and they thought that was all that there was for them. That's all they're ever going to amount to be. And I said,
Yes.
yes. What do you want to do?
There's more.
You can do anything you want to do. There's no reason why a field foreman or someone, a dirt work operator can't own a company or be a QC or be a safety guy or be a project manager. You just have to forge your path. And if the company
Yes.
you're with is not helping to support you, maybe it's time to find a different
Find
company.
another one.
Yeah. Yeah.
100%.
No one's going to look out for you, but go do it. I volunteered to go speak at a community college here close to me. And I said,
Oh,
I want
nice.
to talk to them about construction quality control. And he said,
Yeah.
oh, ma'am, I'll give you over to the manufacturing department.
Huh?
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 And I said, no, you're in the construction department, and that's what I want to talk to. And I mean, like, he had no idea that there was such a
Right.
thing. And it's just, that's, when I'm
They
screaming
just
to the
don't know.
wind, sometimes I feel like I'm trying to educate people. There's like a whole career path for QCs, and they're
Yes.
writing their own tickets, right? They're getting to
Oh, yeah.
travel overseas. They're traveling anywhere within the US, and they're almost naming their price. This is a career. People are doing it. They're making real good money. They're loving it. It's a thing. But yeah, in the end, I didn't get to talk to the community college because the gentleman over the construction didn't think that construction quality control was a thing. So, still a lot of
Oh,
mindsets to change.
if somebody wants to access you, get into the magical, wonderful world of quality, where should we send them?
Yeah, so qcuniversity.net is our site, and we've got
Nice.
standalone there as well as our membership that has all of our inclusive training and it's got all of our forums. All the options are sitting there, but you can find me on all the socials. So we're on the Facebooks and the Instagrams and the YouTubes, and we
Yeah.
even do the TikToks.
Yeah.
I
That's
don't
what I'm
dance
talking
though.
about. Okay, we'll make sure we have those links in the show notes when we post this bad boy. Now, you ready for the big, heavy
I'm ready.
sidewinder question? And I'm excited because clearly you've learned a ton from the experiences you've had on your path, and you've shared it with so many people, and you continue to contribute into other people's lives. So my guess is like your answer to this is going to be pretty profound. So here's the question.
All right.
What is the promise you are intended to be?
I think the promise I'm intended to be is to be unapologetic in myself, yet also completely straightforward on what I will provide. I don't make open promises that can be broken. So when I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it for 150%, and I'm going to give it my all. And I'm to the point where I get to live an unapologetic life, giving back,
Oh, and that takes us all the way back to reputation.
right? Quality
Holy
is what
moly.
remains after the dust settles. And it is what you
Oh,
build your reputation on. And you want it
gangster.
on a t-shirt, we got a t-shirt. I'll get your
Oh, yeah, we'll
size, I'll
make sure.
send you a t-shirt.
Yes, yes, we'll figure that out. Did you have fun?
I had so much fun. It was so great, my friend, just to get to talk to you. And
Likewise.
someday we're going to catch up and have a coffee in person. It's going to happen.
Coffee as we're cruising in the Mustang.
It's a date.
Done. Dang, you stuck around all the way to the end. And I hope the reason you stuck it like all the way through was because you were getting a lot of value out of the conversation. I always give at least one, most of the time, a handful of good nuggets, good ideas, good perspectives that I can take and apply into my life going forward. That's the whole point. I want to share that with you guys and also highlight the amazing people that they are. And I want to end this by saying, if you feel like you've been living out a script that was written for somebody else, and you feel like you're in the wrong skin, I know that life. And all I did was numb myself to make it through to another day, which if you're there, you know how hopeless that feels. I want to recommend that you check out Becoming the Promise You Are Intended to Be. The stories in this book will help you know that you're not alone. They're my personal stories, like the real stuff that I went through, and I'm sharing them because it helps keep me sober. It helps me contribute my gifts and my talents in service to others. It helps me turn my failures, my shame, my embarrassment into something useful and positive. So check it out. Be kind to yourself, be cool, and we'll talk at you next time. Peace.